A small plane, 2 men, and a mission. Not just life-threatening, but something that even today feels impossible. The bizarre dream of a Las Vegas hotel owner. To keep an airplane flying, not for hours, not for days, but for months without ever touching the ground. This wasn't just about fuel. It was a story of sleepless nights, the freezing December cold, and the razor-thin balance between life and death. But the question is, did these two pilots really manage to break this impossible record? Or did their plane vanish forever into the blue skies? A strange event in history, long forgotten in books, but revived once again in a flare video. In 1956, a man named Warren Bailey opened a hotel in Las Vegas. Unlike the city's grand casinos and luxury hotels, this one was different. Here, simple rural folk would come to stay. The Hacienda, not expensive, which made it popular among common people. But because profits were low, Bailey was always searching for new ways to make his hotel famous. One day, his friend Bob Tim, an ex-Army pilot, suggested something bold. If you break a world record, he said, the Hacienda could gain incredible publicity. And his idea? To fly a plane without touching the ground. Not for days, but for months. Bailey loved the idea. But could this truly bring fame to his hotel? And most importantly, how was it even possible? When airplanes were first invented, flight time was measured in seconds. All that mattered to pilots and mechanics was how long a machine could stay in the air. With time, aircraft grew more advanced. And soon, flight time depended only on fuel. The bigger the tank, the longer the flight. In 1923, the U.S. Army solved this problem by refueling one plane in the air from another. And so began the age of endurance flights. The first world record was set by a DH-4B aircraft, staying in the sky for 37 hours, after refueling 9 times in midair. Soon, breaking endurance records became an obsession. By 1929 alone, the record was broken 5 times. But when Bob Tim suggested this to Bailey, the craze had already faded, because now it wasn't about engines or fuel tanks. It was about testing the limits of the human body. The record to beat belonged to 2 Navy pilots in 1949. They had kept an Aero-Inca sedan flying for 46 days. Their mission made headlines across the country. Bailey, however, saw it as the perfect way to promote his Hacienda hotel. And so he asked Bob Tim himself to take on the challenge. After all, Tim was a veteran World War II pilot. He bought a Cessna 172 from McCarran Field Airport, hired a mechanic, and began modifications. The co-pilot seat was removed, but Tim knew he couldn't fly alone. He needed a partner, someone who would fly shifts with him. One would control the plane, while the other slept on a small foam pad, fitted inside the cabin. They removed the rear bench to create an 8-square-foot storage space, installed a tiny sink, and even arranged for sponge baths. Inside the cramped 4-foot-high cabin, a massive 95-gallon belly tank was fitted under the plane, with an electric winch to pull up the fuel hose during mid-air refueling. The co-pilot's door was replaced with a folding door. For easier access to the fuel port, a small platform was added outside, the only spot where one could stand upright, to connect the hose during refueling. They even painted Hacienda in giant letters across the fuselage, since the whole mission was, after all, a flying billboard. But problems came quickly. Test flights failed, co-pilots argued, and engines overheated. By the time Tim solved these issues, other pilots in Dallas had already flown for 50 days in the very same model aircraft, breaking the record. Still, Tim didn't give up. On December 4th, 1958, he and his new co-pilot, John Cook, finally took off on the mission of their lives. Officials from the International Aeronautical Federation were present. To prevent cheating, the plane's tires were painted white. If they secretly landed, the paint would wear off. Refueling was the most dangerous part. The Cessna flew just 20 feet above a speeding truck, moving in perfect sync. Any mistake meant certain death. This process had to be repeated more than 100 times if they wanted to break the record. Days turned into weeks. They flew over Las Vegas, then over the deserts of California. At high altitudes, fuel efficiency improved, but the cold was unbearable. At low altitudes, the views were beautiful, but at night, the mountains were deadly. Their friendship grew stronger. They exercised, read books, and pulled food, water, and even hot meals from refueling trucks below. But exhaustion took its toll. One night, Tim fell asleep at the controls. For over an hour, the plane flew only on autopilot, low through a canyon. If he hadn't woken up, they would have crashed into the mountains. Then came disaster. The plane's generator failed. No more lights, no heater, and no way to pump fuel from the belly tank to the wings. They had to pump it by hand. At night, in total darkness, refueling became a nightmare. They tied flashlights to the winch, while trucks below shone searchlights to guide the hose. By day 39, both men were drained. By day 50, they had broken the record, but instead of landing, they kept flying. For 64 days, 22 hours, 19 minutes, and 5 seconds, they remained in the air. Finally, on February 7th, 1959, the Hacienda Cessna 172 landed at McCarran Field. The crowd went wild. Journalists, officials, supporters, even Tim's family, all witnessed history. The pilots were so weak, they could barely climb out of the aircraft. Officials confirmed the white paint on the tires was intact. The record was real. And in 2015, the Federation of Aeronautics officially closed endurance record attempts forever, meaning Tim and Cook's record can never be broken. The very same Cessna 172 still hangs today inside McCarran International Airport, telling its story to travelers who pass by. And with that, we hope you enjoyed this incredible piece of history. Don't forget to like, share, and comment. We'll see you again in another thrilling story.